Hey guys, this is Sharp's channel, and today Sharp has invited me onto his channel to talk about 6 things that players want to see from a coach. Now, I myself am not a player. I myself am a coach, and I've been coaching professionally for League of Legends for over 3 years at this point. And Sharp himself has been playing professionally as a player for about 2 years, and he wants to bring up with me 6 things that players want to see from a coach, and I'll share my perspective on what it's like as a coach and how we try to tackle these problems. So the first thing that Sharp highlighted to me is that he wants a coach to be able to identify problems within the team quickly and solve them.
Yeah. So if you have a problem and identifying a problem is normally not that hard. Like it's especially with the bigger ones, it's kind of easy for most people to have some experience to see okay, this is causing problems. But the thing I want to highlight here is being able to deal with something effectively. Like you try something, okay, it didn't work, then we're gonna have like to go with more drastic measures, and then if nothing works, you just gotta blow the whole thing up, so to say.
So could you give us an example of such a problem that you've encountered in the past? Or try to omit the names from it. We don't want to be flaming anybody on this channel.
Yeah. So the most recent example I have in my head is if one of your players is not listening to, let's say you have a designated main shot caller and another one of your players is not listening to the calls. This is quite easy to identify, especially for the players, because let's say for the shot caller he feels frustrated that one player is not listening to him, and stuff like this. Now the thing here is, I think with a lot of players you can just say, all right, just try to do this better. We need you to work on this, and they'll take it to heart. But um, that's where the problem comes in. For some players, it's not that easy to change, or maybe they have different motivations. So being able to like speak to them in their language is also a part of the skill of dealing with these problems.
So the challenge is being able to modify and not just identify the problem, but be able to solve them at a fast enough pace, right? And I think this has in relation to do with the way a season progresses.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about adapting your approach to different people as well and personalities, because what's some people you can just tell them and they take it to heart and they try to fix it, but other people, you're gonna have to go with different tactics, and this is where experience as a coach really comes in, because if you've dealt with different personalities in the past, you kind of know roughly like what most players need to change.
So this is where my perspective as a coach comes in, and in the way that I manage a team, sometimes you, at the very bare minimum, you at least have 5 players to work with, one position for each role. Sometimes you have some substitutes to work with, and once I had to work with that man roster as well. What you end up doing is that you come up with a laundry list of problems, right? You start by doing a diagnostic of sorts, and you figure out, okay, this is the problems that my top laner has, the jungler has, etc., etc., and then you rank them accordingly, and then you're able to prioritize them. And to me, it sounds like a good coach, in your perspective, is able to firstly prioritize these problems correctly, and secondly, be able to adapt the right tactics to solve these problems based on who the players are.
Yeah, exactly. um, you need to, because a lot of coaches are gonna be the same with every player they have, which sometimes can be good if their approach is really good and it speaks to a lot of players. But there's a lot of example of coaches where they have gonna have the same approach to everyone, and especially if their approach is really like unique and only speaks to a very low percentage of players, then most players are gonna say that, oh, I didn't like that coach because I didn't like his approach, I didn't like the way he was speaking to me, how he handled problems, etc., etc.
So, which I think brings on to our second point. The other thing that you want to see from a coach is not just being able to adapt his tactics. The coach, kind of the fundamentals of the job, from the way you were putting it to me in the pre-show, was that the coach has to be a good salesman. Now, would you like to elaborate more on what do you mean by a coach being a good salesman?
Yeah. So I think in especially in league, like if you compare it to sports that have been around, most of the coaches are gonna have like inbuilt respect. Maybe in other cultures, like you heard this a lot from Korea as well. the players just trust their coaches, and the coaches, they don't even have to do anything. They're your elders. They've been around longer, so you just listen to them. But I think especially in Western League, and especially when you have players that are more experienced, you're gonna have to get them to buy in on your idea. You're gonna have to sell them on your idea. You're gonna have to convince them that what you're saying is some good shit and they should listen to you.
No, this is where I share a little bit of my experience, and I think that in terms of being a good salesman, it's one way to look at it, because from my perspective, it's not just about being able to sell an idea to players, right? Because this idea of being able to sell an idea means that the coach is the one who comes in and he's trying to tell the people what they should be doing and stuff like that, which I think is one way to look at it. Another way that I think can be looked at this issue is the coach has to be good at facilitating discussions between people, or being able to help players convince each other, right, through facilitating those discussions as well. So he doesn't just have to be a good salesman for his own ideas, but he has to be a good salesman in proxy for maybe what the jungler wants to do, for what the top laner wants to do as well.
Yeah,
Would you agree with the sentiment?
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also wanna mention that you can also like I'm the word is slipping out of my mind now, but you can also gain respect in one regard with a player. Like for instance, let's say we're having a one-on-one and you teach me something about jungle. I'm gonna be more inclined to listen to everything you have to say if you show that okay, I know some shit in this area. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I'm gonna like basically I'm gonna like a little bit more everything that you do if you show to me that okay, you know some shit in this one area. If you get what I'm saying.
I get it. So what you're saying is that if a coach were to work with you, if he can do strong one-on-ones with you and be able to show that to convince you that he has got a good understanding of the game, that would increase your respect for the coach.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
or rather, it doesn't have to be you. It can be just players in general, right? So this is advice to coaches out there when working in a Western team of sorts. Being able to sell your ideas and not just sell them, but be able to show your understanding of the game, it kind of elevates the credibility that you have with players,
Yeah,
right? So it goes
exactly.
back to the basic of sales. That's like the logical aspect of it, which is the logos, and then pathos, which is the emotional aspect of it, and ethos is where your credibility comes in. So doing things like showing them that maybe you yourself are a challenger player, but if you're not challenger, you can go in there and you can show them that you know your stuff as well, be it through VOD review or through one-on-one coaching and solo queue and stuff,
Yeah.
right?
This is also where you can try to be little bit tricky about it. Like, let's say you have a player that he doesn't really listen in reviews, he disagrees a lot with you. Then maybe you know a few things that he can learn, and you try to convince him in a 1v1 that okay, if you do this differently and this differently, then you have some buy-in from him. Um, Not only in your knowledge of his role, but also in the VOD reviews as well. Maybe he'll trust you more. Maybe he'll like agree with you more and try things your way, just because you showed him something else in a different arena. Yeah.
That's good to know. So it moves on to the